Hi guys, we are now in cycle 3 and our learning target is that we want to try and successfully develop our art vocabulary, and we also want to develop and apply critical thinking strategies through the art making process. So just a little bit of a recap and looking at Greek culture, we know that they were remarkable in the way that they were thinking. They used critical thinking strategies to create amazing structures, from sculptures to buildings. They used mathematical principles with artistic flair to create marvelous pieces that are still admired today. Before we look at some of the works that the Greek masters made, let's recap and remember or recall the 7 elements of art. Do you remember line? Look at the different types of lines that we get. With line, you can create shapes. From shapes, if you add lines to them, you can create forms. You also use space, the paper, the areas, negative and positive space to create artworks. Texture, rough and smooth. Value, the color from dark to light. And color. So the element line is interesting. And what I want you to do first is to write down all the different types of line that you see in this vase. This is an ancient Greek vase that was used for many things, like we learned about in our previous lesson, from mixing wine and water to containing or storing oils. So in this vase, we can see that the artist used many lines to create all these shapes in the vase. How many can you see? So different types of line, like zigzags or horizontal, curvy lines, wavy lines, any types of lines that you can identify, you should name. Next up, we're going to look at this famous architectural masterpiece, the Parthenon of classical Greece. We are going to identify the element shape. I want you to identify the basic geometrical shapes in the Parthenon by drawing them in using the shapes tool. So on your presentations, there are a tool shape that you can use, or if you want to print out the picture and draw them by hand, that is also fine. Use nice bright colors so we can really easily identify them. We are going to look at 1-point perspective in our next lesson. And we're going to do some practice drawings using 1-point perspective. Do you remember what 1-point perspective is? Last year, you guys created an artwork with your name using 1-point perspective. Now let's look at how ancient Greeks used that same element of perspective to create amazing structural buildings. 1-point perspective gives the illusion that something is disappearing into the distance, and architects often use this to draw their buildings before they actually create it. It gives the illusion of space, which is another element of art. Here you can see the lines going towards the vanishing point. You have a horizon line. Do you guys remember that we first drew our horizon line? Then you added a vanishing point. And then from the vanishing point, you draw your lines to create that illusion that they are disappearing into the distance. And that will help you to create a drawing showing 1-point perspective.